There we go. Okay, welcome. Thank you all for joining us for this alumni panel. We are excited that you are able to spend some time with us and some of our wonderful alumni from the program. So we do like this to be interactive. So feel free if you have some questions or anything, you could put it in the chat. I have some prescribed questions that I shared just in case people didn't want to talk. We have a couple of questions that the alum will be answering that they are useful to you. It's not just made up question. I'm not going to ask them, what they did yesterday, but it is like questions where you can just really jump in and say, "Oh my gosh, okay, this is good." So we do have some of those. But if you have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. But I do want to take a moment just to introduce to you my esteemed colleagues who have joined us for this alumni panel. So I'm going to actually let me they say shine the light on them. Let me shine a light on them. Let me so that y'all can see who we have. Let me put all these folks here. I'm gonna shine the light on all of our alums who joined us. I have 5 of them. There we go. Now y'all can see them and I don't have to see me. Okay. All right. So our alum here, we have Brianna Jones. Brianna graduated in 2020 with the clinical specialization. And currently, Brianna is, well, let me say that first. She has worked as a campaign manager for the Board of Ed candidates and worked on mayoral campaign in 2021. She is an author, she's a mother of 1 and working on obtaining her LSW. She's also worked in the Camden school system with minors who were at risk of incarceration. And her goal is to serve her community and influence the people around her to walk in their purpose. So that is my colleague, Bree Jones, that you see right there on your screen. My next colleague here is going to be Allison Gonzalez. Allison is an LCSW who graduated back in 2017 with the clinical specialization, and she obtained her BSW from Monmouth University in 2017, and her, oh, I'm sorry, yes, 2017 BSW, and 2018, her advanced standing MSW. She was a bilingual intern and worked in outpatient health settings with maternal fetal mental health, case management, and clinical therapy treating comorbid disorders. Currently, Allison is working at Renfro Center for Eating Disorders, and she is the leading trauma track program. She is the lead trauma track program therapist and the lead therapist, and has presented her work and research in clinical courses as well as higher education institutions. In her spare time, she loves to travel, take care of her plants, and do new hobbies. So that is my colleague there, Allison. My next one, I think y'all, this might be in the order. This is going right in order. Okay, all right. Next up, we have Kyle Morris. Kyle Morris is an MSW LSW, graduated in 2015, clinical specialization. When he enrolled, he entered with a very small percentage of Black men and were spread across the 3 campuses. His specialization is cognitive behavioral therapy. He is a certified school social worker, which by far is his favorite position. He's working 2 jobs as a full-time school social worker and a part-time therapist in the evenings. And he encourages you to take your LSW. We're gonna talk about that, y'all. Take your LSW during your last semester. And he also encourages you to connect with your cohort as they become your family away from family. So finally, practice self-care, which it can be a variety of activities. So that's gonna be coming from Kyle Morris there, who's on our screen. And then next up, I have Lauren. And Lauren, you know that you done told me multiple times how to say your last name, and it just went right by. So Lauren K, I know it's core was how we always saw it, but Lauren actually just graduated. Lauren just graduated in May in 2023 here. Lauren was a MAP student, and she has a certificate in human services management. She's currently a project and research specialist at Sustainable Jersey, and she will be the New Jersey Department of Children and Families 2023 Governor's Fellow this September. Lauren's niche social work interests are environmental justice, psychedelic assisted therapies, and in her spare time, she likes to write and travel. So last but not least, I have my colleague Mary Brown here. Mary graduated in 2020 with a specialization in clinical, and she is currently an intensive in-community therapist at United Family Services. And she is certified in ARC GROW program, New Jersey Disaster Response Chrysler Counselor, and will be starting trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy training. Mary's inspired daily by her family and friends to pursue opportunities for growth in the field. In her free time, Mary likes to do home DIY, spend time with family, friends, and take road trips. So I want y'all to take note of how everybody talk about their free time, because although you think you don't have it, you got to make time for it. So that's something that's going to be on our list of things. Make time for your free time. So just brief introductions that we have here with our alum. But I want to go ahead and get us started. And I want to just start off with a question for the alum, and you all could jump in, and whoever wants to start and answer. Again, if y'all have questions, y'all could drop it in the chat. But multiple responsibilities. So we know coming into this program, a lot of folks have families, they may have jobs, they have other responsibilities. So talk to us a little bit how you all managed multiple responsibilities when you were in the program. So anybody jump in.
I'll be happy to jump in because
I love it.
So I did the weekend intensive program out of Mays Landing. So if you're familiar with it, you know it's one full weekend a month and a half a weekend. So I did it during the pandemic, so it was all online. Most of it, last couple classes we actually had in person. But I also worked 2 jobs, did an internship, raised a child. And went to school all at the same time. So everybody's like cringing, like, oh, my biggest helper was like making sure that I had time management. So I had a binder that I had everything jotted down in, a calendar, just so I can visually see where my time is being spent each day and scheduling things. And for those of you who are also parents and have kids at home, having a whiteboard on your refrigerator so they can also write stuff down to remind you, because, you know, if you have little ones or even big ones, they like to pass by and say, hey, mom, don't forget I have cheer on Friday. And I will forget if you tell me. You have to write it down. So definitely keeping a calendar and just making sure you're scheduling everything. And that includes scheduling self-care. And I'm sure we're going to talk a lot more about self-care later on. So it's important.
Absolutely. Anyone else on managing multiple I've said personalities. Oh my stars. Managing multiple responsibilities. Oh, look, y'all, I'm teaching clinical assessment diagnosis right now. That's our module next week. Sorry.
Hello, everyone. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you so much, Natalie, for inviting me. So when I was in school, I actually was doing a campaign while in my last year, which is crazy because I had a 2-year-old. I was doing an internship, and I was also a campaign manager for the Department of Education. So I was literally cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. But how I navigated was literally support from my other classmates that were in my classes. And I actually had support from my teachers as well. And I would just tell them like what I needed and the support that I needed. And they would, you know, help me along the way. And I definitely had a planner that was full and packed and loaded. Okay. A planner will save your life. It saved mine several times. Essays, projects I had to do, things that were due. I wrote everything down because if I did not write it down, it did not happen. It is not real. I don't remember. Okay. So if you don't write it down, it didn't happen. So write everything down, everything. Anything you think that is important, write it down because it won't be important when you forget. So that is really how I navigated just all the things that I had to do. And just using your support system, you know, and I think it's very important to find a community on your campus that can support you when you have multiple things to do. Because I've had classmates watch my daughter for me when I was doing things, or I had my professor allowed me to stay late or come in early to talk to them about an assignment or whatever. So all of those things are very important to use the community that's around you.
Hi, everybody. So I would add that in addition to the planner, the using your supports for sure, I would also add, you know, like I really learned, and I still do this to this day, like time blocking. Like for example, I'll say like, okay, 30 minutes, I'm gonna put on the clock, put my phone away, all my distractions, because it's so easy to get distracted. And like I'll shut my office door, or if I'm in my house, like I'll shut my room door, and I'll just be like, okay, 30 minutes on the clock, Allison, do what you can in that moment to kind of like focus, just because I feel like it's so easy to go off of task. So like when I was at internship, because I did the advanced standing, like Natalie said, so that's like 2 years in 1 year. And so like it was just constant. And it was like when I was at my internship, I was at my internship. When I was in school, I was in school. Like it was just like I tried my best to stay present as much as I could, and to be able to like, not, and use my supports and my planner to like kind of manage everything and write it all out, because really it is so easy to get so overwhelmed. And I'm sure there have been moments when I did get overwhelmed and was like, what is happening? So if you are feeling that way currently, or like you have in the past, just know it does get better, but like, it is really hard to manage all of it. So just give yourself that grace too,
Oh, that's a good one. I like that. Give yourself grace. I think we get into this and then we forget. We start like, I have to do it. I have to get the A. I have to do everything, everything, everything. But we don't give ourselves grace to have a moment. And sometimes you don't have to get the A. The B is the best you gave for that day or that class. You don't have to, don't feel like, oh my gosh, I didn't get it. So now I can't get a job. That's not at all. Not at all. That's good. Good. All right, y'all thinking of questions in the group, right? I'm looking over here, seeing the folks up here. Y'all thinking of questions. Um, okay, I have another question for our alum here, unless anyone wants to jump in, but I have another question about, you talked a lot about using your supports, using resources that you had, whether it was with your family or with friends, or even as you mentioned, Bree, speaking to instructors and letting them know some of your struggles. And we're not saying that you have to go and tell your instructor, like, divulge deep, deep personal information, but if there's a struggle, you want to share that. You want to talk about that. Did y'all use any resources on campus or while you were in the program, maybe like writing center, learning center, advisors, health center, any type of campus events or attend social work events? Did you do any of those that you found were helpful while you were in the program?
Yeah, so I actually used, I believe it's called like the Academic Access Center. So I met with one of the like coaches where I came in like kind of going back to like our last question, feeling like overwhelmed with so many different responsibilities, figuring out, okay, how do I schedule and manage all these responsibilities? So I found it like really helpful, like talking to one of their academic coaches, and she helped me like actually block out my weeks. So being like, okay, I'm in class this time, I have internship this time, and looking at like the week ahead, being like, okay, this would be a great time to do my clinical assessment homework. So that was like a really good resource that I think we don't necessarily always know. And then another one that's technically not a resource, but like is there for you. So since I took classes like on campus in person, I would actually use like the gym a lot, like the rec center. And it was like great because if you had a morning class and an evening class and you just needed a break, or like self-care, like the library was just across the street from the rec center. So I would just like have class, maybe like work out for a little bit, eat lunch, and then go back to the library. So I found that like so nice that like it's there, and like every campus had like a library and a rec center. So depending like wherever you are, that's available too.
That's a good one, Lauren. The getting speaking of self-care, which we'll talk about here, but self-care is not only just saying, okay, I have to make sure I eat, but taking care of your body too, incorporating that exercise. Even if you feel like, oh, I can't get to the gym, but you could walk. I mean, the campuses are very walkable. You could walk around some buildings. I mean, there's a lot of spaces in there for that, but I like that. And the resource that you shared. Lauren, you also, and Mary, I'm going to come to you too, but Lauren, you were also on the GSA, the Graduate Student Association, which was
Yeah.
which provides a lot. So could you share with students about what they, if they wanted to become involved in the GSA, or just things that they can do?
Sure, yeah. So with the GSA, so we have the School of Social Work, Graduate Student Association that's specific to social work. And then there's also the larger GSA, Rutgers Graduate Student Association. So both are definitely great resources. Like the main GSA has like website and different like web pages. And so even like different niche needs for students. So like I saw that there was even an organization recently for parents that are students, which I'm like, you don't always realize that there are resources, or even like Title IX office, like they were getting involved with, because you can get resources if, you know, even if your spouse is actually expecting or just had a child. So but with the social work GSA, like the beginning of the year, usually you do like a tips and strategies like event or meeting, just to let you know like what resources we have, as well as professional development. And we do like self-care events too. So literally all our programming relates to what you're doing either in the field, in class, or what you would be doing later on in your career. So it is like really helpful. And this past year we were able to get our events to count towards field hours. So even if like, you know, you're like, oh, I don't know if I want to do it, at least, you know, you get like field hours and you learn something new. So definitely, yeah, check out those events if you can.
Lauren, thank you so much for talking about that, because I've been a year removed from it. So I'm glad to hear that you're giving you field hours now if you do participate in the events. And I would, you know, recommend to see what events they are having, because I know when I was on the board, they did like resume writing, they did like Q&As with professors, people, you know, people in the field. It's really important. And I'm thinking we probably will talk a little bit later too about like getting out networking as well. So this is going to help you get your feet wet when it comes to networking if it's not something you're used to or accustomed to, because you're going to be meeting people in your cohort, but also outside of your cohort and other, you know, other areas of the school as well. So definitely, you know, I would recommend at least getting involved enough to go at least to 1 or 2 events during the year if you can.
That's a good point. I mean, and last year, I know the last year that Mary was on GSA, it was like at the height of COVID. So a lot of things that were planned, we had to, you know, navigate or switch over to Zoom, which we weren't all ready for Zoom at that time. But I would tell y'all, we're Zoom pros now. And so all of the events actually that GSA did over the last school year were held via Zoom. And we did have one in-person event towards the end, which was actually a lot of fun. We met on the park in New Brunswick and had pizza and played games and water. There wasn't water ice. Do we have water ice? Or we had boba tea.
We had boba tea, yeah,
We had boba tea.
and
So it was a
gelato.
nice thing. Yes, and gelatos. That's, I'm like, we had something. But it was a nice way just to connect with folks and on to see people on campus. But if you can, I would recommend that you do attend GSA events as they come about. They are some really, really good places for you to meet other students and then just kind of connect and see what's going on. But yes, absolutely. Nina, I see your question there. We're going to talk about that in a couple of minutes here. We'll get to that. And then Lauren, the question came up for you if you could share more about psychedelic therapy, if you could talk about that.
Yeah. So another great resource, or what I would recommend for students to get involved too, is with NASW, so our National Alliance of Social Workers. So when you usually like start, you'll see like NASW Code of Ethics. So that's the same NASW, and they have state chapters. So like New Jersey is like a state chapter. And they also have student membership and student events that you can do and networking. And that's like really great, you know, to meet more people in the field and get involved. So this past year, my other co-chair, Alia, and I, and some other students, we went to the NASW New Jersey conference this past spring. And while we were there, like they had all these different speakers, including Dawn Apgar. So we got to meet her, who you learn later on who wrote like the main LSW testing booklet. Like she's really cool to me in person. So yeah, so like you meet people like her, and like for the students one, it was like really much like a professional development workshop, because you had like not necessarily courses, but like seminars geared towards like how to prep you for interviews, or how to prep you to network or figure out what you want to do. So while we were there, one of the keynote speakers, he talked about being a psychedelic practitioner, and how like he got involved with that and some other social workers. So that's becoming like it's in clinical trials like federally to like have that become an approved like substances to use in therapy. But some states like it is legalized, like ketamine assisted therapies. So yeah, like I was curious as well as some friends. So we saw one of the speakers at one of the like networking receptions, and I just like came up and asked like, or I said like, hey, I really enjoyed your speech. And you know, like I would love to learn more. And then he invited us to be on like the working group for psychedelic assisted therapy, like policy, like networker practitioners in New Jersey. So that's like up and like getting going, but you know, it just like took a conversation to get involved with that. And I'm not even like clinical, but there's still like the policy side and just like learning about it, which I find like so fascinating. So that's how I got involved with that.
Oh, that's perfect though, because that's about networking, right? It's about networking. And Dr. Casiglio, he's a actual professor at Monmouth University. He's amazing, and he does a lot of work in this area. Him as well as Dr. Rios from Seton Hall. So this is kind of their space and what it's like a niche area. People just start finding things like, you know what, I like it, I'm gonna do that. And that's the beauty in social work. You can put yourself in any places and be like, you know what, I like that. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna start doing some work with that. Go ahead, Mary.
I was going to say, Dr. This Consiglio was actually one of my professors for the weekend intensive program. So he taught us the CBD or CBT training. So
Yeah, this is,
does.
I'm telling you, y'all, your instructors, your professors, these are
Mhm.
great ways to start networking where you could
Mhm.
find and know different things going on in the field. People do a lot, and you can too. You can too. Absolutely. Okay, let me go back over to our chat, see if I didn't miss anything. Okay. All right. So one of the questions that came up here, I'm going to come back to that one because I do want to just kind of mention, I want to talk a little about self-care. And so I know that we've had alumni, we've had panels, we've had all these different things for self-care, but I want some of our panelists here to share what they did for self-care while they were in the program. How did they maintain their self-care in the program? I'm going to call Kyle because he didn't get the chance to talk yet.
Yeah,
He knew I was calling him. No, he already saw it on his face.
I was gonna say, well, good evening, everyone. For me, self-care was so important because I worked at DCP&P while I was in school, and you know, even though you're going part-time in the evening program, at some point it becomes full-time. So I had my clinical internship, and then of course classes and full-time work. So like my colleague said, like Lauren said, I would go to the gym immediately after class. So I didn't mind working out at 8:40 at night. So I would, work out for maybe about 45 minutes and then go home. So that would help me process some of the emotions that I had going on and that hadn't been processed throughout the day. I cut out social media and I cut out television. So that helped me immensely. Like I knew some things or the important things that were going on in the news and in the world, but I tried not to inundate myself with that because we receive so much information from our jobs and from our own environments. I didn't want to, further you know, muddy myself in my thoughts. So I just wanted to make sure that I was in a good space. And like even little things, like I on the way to my internship, because it was fall, I would open up the sunroof, give everyone a concert while I'm driving to my, to my internship. So it's just very small things, include massages. I pray, I meditate, just sitting silently. I would doodle in class if I had something going on in my mind, just to help me process as well. So self-care comes in so many forms. So I wholeheartedly encourage you all to take at least 5 minutes for yourself, because you're worth it. You don't want to be burned out, because our readings can help burn you out. Your family and everything that's going on can help burn you out. So take at least 5 minutes for yourself.
Well, that's good. That's real important. Look, y'all gonna make me call on y'all. We could be in class. I'll be calling out names. Mary.
I'll talk. I'm always talking. It's really important, I can't stress self-care enough. Find things that you love, things that make you happy. It could be sitting out in the sun for 10, 15 minutes. It could be closing your eyes and just absorbing the things around you. It could be locking yourself in the bathroom and eating cookies when your kids are banging on the door trying to get in, whatever it is that makes you happy. But I also suggest schedule it. I know it doesn't sound organic for some people. They like more of an organic feel to having a time to relax. But with so much going on between school and internship and life itself, you need to schedule it. That can look like scheduling a half an hour night, every night, 15 minutes every night. And like Kyle said, just, opening the windows and singing and giving everybody, their own concert as you're driving. Whatever it is, whatever it looks like to you, do it and stick to it, because it will make a huge difference. And I will get a little personal here. When I was in undergrad, I actually ended up in the hospital for a week because of stress. And they thought I was having a heart attack. It wasn't a heart attack. It was stress. It was stress induced. So I was not taking care of myself, because I was taking care of everybody else around me, doing schoolwork, working. And it was an eye opener for me. So I want to just implore all of you to take it seriously, that it's important to take care of yourself physically and emotionally.
That is so good, because stress does not just impact just, like, oh, I can't work today because I'm stressed out. No, physically, mentally, emotionally, it takes a toll on our bodies. So absolutely. I love that though, Mary, you said to schedule it, because we say, oh, I'll do it. I'll do it. And then time goes by and it doesn't get done. And then you're stressed because you didn't take care of the stress. So I like that. Schedule the time, give yourself like 30 minutes. Say, okay, I'm going to read this book for 30 minutes, starting at 9:30. My alarm goes off and it comes on. So that's a good one. I'm sorry, Allison, I saw you come in.
No, you're good. You're good. You can finish. Yeah. I would just add really starting to get to know your own warning signs, knowing are you I don't know, maybe not paying attention as much? Are you just like on autopilot and you're not actually like present? Are you not eating your normal meals like you should be, are you sleeping okay? That's huge. That's one big thing that I refuse to give up, because I love sleep. And so I was just I need to make sure, or at least try my very best to make sure I got my sleep. And I would also add, the last thing is boundaries, just because I know personally my role in a lot of different of my dynamics is I will be there, I'm their go-to. Of course, I'm a therapist, so and I take care of my people and stuff like that, but with school and everything, I really had to set that boundary and say I can't go to maybe your birthday party, or I can't go to brunch this day because and it could have been even because it's not necessarily maybe I had work, but maybe because I just wanted to chill and just like do nothing for a day or something like that. It's like being able to set those boundaries and know, kind of like what Kyle said, like know that you're worth it, and being able to like say like, I really care about you, and yes, you are an important person in my life, and I need to do this right now. So, because it's obviously not going to be forever, right? And so it's kind of like, setting those boundaries now so you can take good care of yourself now in the present is what I would add.
Oh, that's good. Yes, that, I think sometimes we often continue to pour from an empty cup, right? So we'll still do for everybody. We'll still go, I'll still go to everybody's party. I'll come to everybody. If you have something going, you want a breakfast, you want to meet, I will still come, even though I have nothing left to give. So that's important just to know. Sometimes we got to say no, especially while you're in the program. There's a lot going on. You have a lot of classes, you got a lot of work, a lot of reading, you got an internship, you got your other job, you have your family, you have all these things going on. So sometimes saying no is where you have to really give yourself permission to tell somebody no. Sometimes we feel bad, but hey, listen, like they might not talk to you for today, but tomorrow you'll be okay. It'll be okay. It's
I was
okay.
going to add that, like you said earlier, showing yourself some grace, that is so important because, like you said, we will end up with empty cups. And it is okay to say no because it's for your best interest. Like I know personally, like I suffered from heart palpitations during the program in the beginning too, because I was not taking care of myself. So yes, set aside your self-care.
That's good. That's good. Look, now we got y'all all down. Like, oh my gosh, like this, we gonna make it. We gonna make it. It's okay, y'all, because I think you have to hear the reality of it, and then also know that you'll be successful in it. You'll be successful. I mean, you got 5 people right here on the screen showing y'all who graduated from Rutgers at various years. I didn't just pull people who was like 10 years ago and they're like, yeah, I've been working forever. No, we got folks graduated like, what was it, 2 months ago, and then going all the way back. So you will make it. You just got to set aside the time for you to do so. And so I did want to address the question that came up in the chat from Nina. She talked about job searching. And so when did y'all start networking or preparing for the job search? Did you do it while you were in the MSW or in the position you're in right now? Is this your current position from graduation, or have you worked in other positions in between? So if you could give them a little thought about the job and how you went about that.
Yeah, so I can go. So I definitely am a person that enjoys networking, enjoys talking to others, and just learning and knowing how to like navigate social work. So my first job out of the social work program was through a co-worker, a classmate that I had actually. So she referred me to the job, and I'm still there currently, but I did other things. So I'm someone who has multiple jobs, a lot of streams of income. So I currently am a psychiatric screener for Capitol Health and for Burlington County. So I work in Mercer County and I work in Burlington County. But my Burlington County job I had since graduating from the MSW program. And that was only because I stayed connected to my classmates. And I think that's very important. Like if you see people that are kind of going down a path that you are interested in, make connection, talk to them, see how, you can get connected with them, or, go to lunch with them and hang out, or even with professors. Like I've had professors who have sent me job opportunities, so you can really gain a lot by talking to others in your classroom, because a lot of times it's through who you know. You can definitely look on Indeed and find a job, but I think that sometimes when you find it through a person that's already there, it's a little bit of an easier process to get through the red tape sometimes. So so that's what I was doing. And even with my community service work, when I was in school doing my campaign stuff, that was all through connections that I found through Rutgers and the community that I built for myself. And even though I was not a MAP student, I was doing political, things and being in that environment and seeing like, is this something that I like? Even though I was on a clinical track. And it was absolutely an amazing experience. Will I do it again? Absolutely not. But it was great for the time being. And it showed me what I had, and it showed me just how much you can do with social work, honestly. Like, I am so glad that I picked this field because I can almost do anything and make it into some type of like perspective for me and how I want to move in these different lanes. So currently, my current job as a psychiatric screener, I receive through the connections at Rutgers.
Great. And Bree, you made a lot of good points talking about, the connections you make with your fellow classmates, your cohort, even in your internships. So on my undergrad, I was actually hired part-time from there after I graduated with my bachelor's for MHA, that I worked there through graduate school part-time. And you make those connections, and I became very good friends and have strong connections with my past supervisors too. And those are great resources as well. Both of my supervisors from actually all three of my supervisors from all three of my internships that I've been through, I'm still connected with, and they're always thinking about me and sending me, different job descriptions. Hey, this job's open. I think this would be great for you. No, I think this would be great for you. So with the job I'm currently at with United Family Services, I actually did get that one off of Indeed. I'm not going to lie. And it popped up, and I just like, let me check. Let me just try it. And I was actually offered the job before I even had my LSW. They knew I was taking it. They knew I was taking my LSW in my last semester, and they had hired me before I got my LSW. Once I had my LSW, I was able to start working for them. My side gig, and I don't know if you saw, we're social workers, so we have a full-time job, and we always have our side gigs, right? So my side gig, I work for Youth Advocate Program, and I do counseling in schools. And that came about with, it just happened to be somebody in my cohort. We use WhatsApp, and we still stay connected. Even a year later after graduation, we still wish everybody, happy birthdays and stuff like that. And they're always putting job postings and stuff in there. And that's came about that way. Somebody said, hey, Mary, I know you wanted to work in a school. This job's opening for a youth advocacy program. This is the person to contact. And that's how I got that second job. So, your resources around you, your cohort, your supervisors that you've worked with, your professors, and then also anybody you find when you're networking too. Give them your name, give them your email address, say, hey, let's keep in contact. And I keep a book of people that I know over the last 3 or 4 years that I've met in the field, and they've become resources for me. And there's a couple that I've actually called in the past for help with stuff. So it's always good.
I love this, y'all. Networking and resources. That is the baseline in social work. And I would say too, another resource, people, if you're thinking about like, how do I go about finding work and things like that, utilize the Career Center on campus. So the Career Center on campus, they provide a ton of stuff. I mean, you get on, and every campus has their own one, but Handshake, right? Every campus has their own name to it. So there's like, I think it's Raptor Link or something like that in campus, or it used to be. But Handshake, go just Google Rutgers Handshake and make sure you go in for your campus and go and set up your account. They will post job positions up there all the time. You can do practice interviews on there. You can meet with career services. They will review your resume, your cover letters. I mean, you can meet with them as often as you need to and build that relationship. And then it will help with the networking piece. But also too, I would tell you to talk with your advisor and some of your instructors. If they know that you're interested in certain things, and they'll say, hey, you know what, something just came across my desk. I didn't, maybe this might interest you. And then they could give you that information as well. But I really believe in social work, any type of career piece is about networking. It is about networking. Not saying that if you know somebody, that's the way in, but if you know somebody, it might be give you a leg up. It might give you a leg up on that. So that's excellent advice there. In hindsight, would y'all have done anything differently in your own work, employment venture while you were in school or right after school? Would you have done anything differently as you search for jobs or? Go ahead, Kyle.
All right. One of the things I would have done differently, like I wholeheartedly support the Career Center. When I gave them my resume, because I left a job, the person who rewrote my resume had me looking at it like, oh my gosh, wow, this is awesome. If I could do anything differently, I probably would have gone on for my DSW, because there aren't many people who look like me in that, with that distinction, and I would like to have that, but unfortunately those loans, those are the things that stop us. So, and I'm a little trying to find those scholarships can be a difficult thing, but yeah, I think that's what I would do differently. And also, while I do keep in contact with several people, I would network more so. I didn't get to attend many of the graduate student association events, but I would attend more just so I could see more of my colleagues, because it's nice to attend the conference, the NASW conference, and see people that and you can run into. So, like while I am most of the time, I don't mind being alone. Sometimes it's nice running into a familiar face.
I definitely agree with that in terms of just like I was not, even though I spoke to a lot of people, I did not join any like associations. And I think that that would have been very helpful in just the process of just how to navigate, and then also seeing what other social workers are doing in other areas, because I'm very isolated because I only know a certain group of social workers in one area, and you should want to know what's going on in other states and other counties, just because it can be very helpful in how you help where you have influence. So I definitely feel like I would have been more involved in like the bigger associations and getting into their groups and signing up and things like that. But when you're doing a lot already, sometimes it just feels overwhelming. So it's just really taking more thought and being intentional about what things you are a part of as well. Because sometimes you're doing so much and being a part of so much that everything you may not really need to be a part of, even though it's nice, or, it's like, oh, this is going to be great. But if it's not really helping you to push you towards your goal, then you may need to take a step back and say, okay, well, let me like pivot here, and maybe I should be doing something else, or maybe I should get out of this particular group or environment and do something else. So I think for sure I did a lot of things, but some of the things I think I could have kind of pushed away and added something that would have been more beneficial to my career.
That's good. Any other thoughts on? Okay, let me ask you this though, because I'm looking out of time. What's one thing you wish you knew coming to the program, or a suggestion you might have for the students who are on? That's for our panelists. One thing you wish you knew, or a suggestion you might offer to our students who are here.
I will say one thing, after swaps, I wholeheartedly enjoyed the program, but I did learn a significant amount of history from swaps. I did encourage my fraternity brother to come into the program, and he and I were able to graduate at the same time. So for me, I did not know the small amount of Black men that were in the program. So I would have encouraged more people who were just looking to do something different and wanting to make an impact and a difference in the community. So I would definitely share that. And I make sure that now I share my experience with the students that I work with. So I probably would have gone into social work much sooner. That's what I would have done differently.
What else, y'all? What would y'all share?
And I just want to bring up something Kyle had said about, doing it sooner. I feel the same way. I'm a late in life bloomer, went back to school in my early 40s, change of career, and I wish I would have done it younger. But when I look back in retrospect, I'm glad I did it when I did, because I have a wisdom and maturity about me that helps me in the career that I've chosen at this point. But I also like the fact that Kyle brought up that, we should be also looking to the future social workers. I myself working in a school part-time. So yes, it's important to, let these kids know that there's more out there in life, and they can be social workers. They can be anything they want. But I always tell my older kids that are looking to go to college, I'm like, you want to be a social worker, right? I said, because we have cookies on this side. So you just come over to the dark side and have cookies with us, like be a social worker. Cause you get the ones that are wanting to be, I want to go to school for psychology. I'm like, and I want to be a therapist. I'm like, don't you want to go to social worker for it? Because I think it's a little easy. It's a little easier. But kind of getting, out there and letting people know that social work isn't about, DPCNP and, things like that. There's so much more to it. And there's so many more careers you can go into with a social work degree. So, and I didn't realize that until I got into the field, that how much more is out there.
That's a good point, Mary. Social work is versatile, y'all. People look at it and say, oh, you can only work in child welfare, or you can only do this one thing. You can do anything in social work, anything. So don't feel like, oh, I'm only trapped in just one space. But I think that's what media does. And whether our relatives or family members, as soon as you say, I'm going to be social work, they're like, oh, you're going to be taking people kids. Like, no, like, that's not what I'm doing. Like, I'm working at the school. Like, it's just, there's so much you can do. Okay, I'm gonna give it over to our other people because we got 6 minutes.
I can go. Sorry, Bree. But yeah, I would say one is like look up in a way, because I feel like throughout my whole year, I feel like I didn't do things like this, like go to these kinds of things or go to events really on campus. Like Natalie literally had to pull me into things and be like, Allie G, like, come on, like you got to do this or join this, like come check this out and stuff. And because like my head was just like it felt like I was just like on one path and that was it. And I really wish I took more, I took more opportunities and I used more of the resources that are available on campus, and talked more to people and stuff, like besides for like my classmates and like the teachers that I like did get close to. And I would also add, I guess, like be curious, like as you grow and as you, start to do new things and you start to develop new interests, like, I know some classes like you may love or hate it or whatever, but like you can always take away something really cool and interesting about it. And I know how much we hate papers, but like, really utilizing the time to research things that you like. Like, for example, I know I did a lot of my stuff on eating disorders, and I am here now. 5 years later, I've done this specialty for the past 5 years, and I've loved every minute of it. And I think it's super interesting because of how complex it is. So yeah, I would just say that, like look up, like, take advantage of what you have in front of you. And then also just like continue to stay curious. And I know it's really hard on some days, but like it is all worth it. Definitely, because I think like I literally would not be able to, I think, handle the challenges that life is throwing at me now if it wasn't for how crazy college was and like grad school and stuff like that. Like it almost like it helps you grow, right? So yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So I would say for me, one thing I wish I knew was that social work is not necessarily the easy way out, right? Because really you have to be able to realize that you are not the savior of anyone. And not to say that I thought I was a savior, but there definitely is a complex of being a social worker that you feel like, oh, I have all the answers, I can do this, I can change people's lives. And it's just like, not really. You're not saving anyone's life, but you're helping them to learn how to manage their own life and their own environment and their own experience. So you can't come in trying to save people, because you're going to wind up being more drained and them never changing, because you're trying to take them out of an environment that they're going to be in regardless if you're there or not. So for me, I had to really like get out of the mindset of wanting to really change people, but more so help them to manage what they have on their plate. And the one thing that I would do as I was getting more seasoned in this, I would say, I don't know how long I'll be with you, but every moment we have, I want it to be intentional, and I want you to learn one thing from me that you can take with you, that regardless if you don't know my name, you remember what I said to you and how it helped you. So for me, that is something that I had to learn, and I had to remember, like, coming out of this, like, okay, Bree, you can't save everyone. Everyone is not going to gravitate to you, and you're just going to be this big old guru. Like, no, calm down, simmer, And then the other thing is just being open to change. And when I say that, I mean, when we are navigating these different spaces, everything is not going to go the way we planned for it to go. And sometimes I think we get into this mind of like, there's a structure and there's a set plan that we need to go through, but sometimes it's not. And sometimes it is sporadic, because sometimes you learn things just out of your experience that you're not going to learn in the classroom. And you have to be open enough to say, you know what, I didn't learn this in the classroom, but this is something that I need to apply to who I am as a social worker. So I think that that is, something that we have to remember, and, just be available to grow and really get out of our boxes that we created for ourselves and what we think social work is, because it's definitely more than a box.
Now, this is good. So you give me some tips, some thoughts, some areas. Lauren, I don't want to cut you off if you have something you wanted to add. Okay, that's all you. Okay. But this is good. We want to make sure y'all had some tips, some areas, some thoughts. And really, I mean, I think the start, I mean, some people are just starting out in the program, some people have been in the program, but as you were navigating this, your colleagues, your peers, your instructors, your advisors are going to be key support people for you. Key support. They mentioned earlier on, it's like a family that you joined. They're your cohort, your people. You may take classes all the time with the same people, and it's your family. And this is who will help you get you through this program. So we do appreciate y'all joining us and hanging out with us for an hour. We will be respectful of your time. We know we said 6 p.m. and we are at that one. The dot is going to go to 6:01, but we do appreciate y'all jumping in and hanging out with us, and stay connected. Stay connected, y'all. You see things. I mean, I will say too, social media for social work is big. So a lot of things get posted on Rutgers social work, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. They're on everything. So if you feel that, like, stay connected, get connected with them so you can see different things that are happening and be a part. But we thank y'all for coming, and we enjoyed y'all. So y'all have a wonderful evening and day, and we'll see y'all soon.